This is the thing. I feel bad sometimes because I pick a fight with someone who I don't know from a hole in the wall. I just see a tweet, some blue check mark. I go to their profile, reporter, journalist, whatever, defending the NSA. No, Tucker, you're not being spied on by the NSA. And I go, I don't know who they are. And I tweet a response. I say, you have to be, I didn't say anything bad. It's like, holy cows. You are unaware that the NSA was involved in the largest unlawful domestic surveillance program ever. Why are you defending them? I don't know who Jonah Goldberg is, but I don't think he's going to correct his initial tweet because it went from, Cernovich said it as well, it went from, no, they're not spying on you, Tucker, to, yes, they're spying on you and you deserved it. And this is the level of intellectual dishonesty that we are dealing with the blue checkmark MSM types who, I don't know if this is called gaslighting, but it's called a moving target where you make an affirmation. When it is proven to be false, you just shift the goalpost and say, well, you deserved it. Explain what Tucker Carlson was alleging and what we know now based on the facts as they currently stand.
Sure. So Shipwreck Crew there's another example where he was trying to minimize what took place. So the NSA does gather everybody's data. They get every communication that exists outside of that are shared over lines. So, for example, the NSA does not get most communications where you use Signal as an app. I found that out because the head of security for the National Security Council for the president, when the president was Trump, told me he would only communicate with me about some key clients that needed representation in the Mueller case if I got Signal. And he communicated through a third party to even tell me that. It was an impressive little thing he did. But outside of a few apps like that, but don't use ones the government promotes. Don't use closed source ones because then the government may be the owner of your encrypted app, like as happened around the world recently. So, but other than that, NSA gets everybody's communications. Echelon was the program. Dan Brown talked about it in one of his books, Deception Point, some years ago. I would have pulled that out, but I forgot forgot that aspect. So they do, but what's different is they're not looking at who that communication is from. This is the process called unmasking. In my view, all of the grabbing of communication is illegal, but the courts have refused to enforce it. NSA basically cut a deal with the telecom companies so that theoretically these are private companies gathering this for you, and they're just given immunity by giving it to the state. And even though, in fact, you should be able to sue, the Ninth Circuit usually says, in other courts, oh, you don't have standing to bring your claim because you can't prove you're one of the people who suffered a consequence. It's a game. It's a shell game that they do. But to me, it's still not, even that part's not legal. But the part that's clearly, incontrovertibly not legal is to unmask. So the NSA's got a bunch of numbers with, communications in their huge database. That doesn't mean they know, Viva sent a text to me yesterday at 6:30. They have to unmask the identity of those communications to know who sent them. And that's what they did with Tucker. That was the illegal part, or the clearly illegal part. I think all of it's illegal. But the clearly illegal part is they unmasked that. But then they did a third illegal act, which was they shared it with aspects of the media. And so they, trying to make Tucker Carlson look like he was really part of Russia collusion because he wanted to simply interview the president of Russia, who usually likes to sit down with deep state hacks because he likes to show his own Russian audience, look at all the CIA spooks that operate jobs in the American media. There was a good thing last week with Eric Hunley and Mark Grobert about about the CIA media role, how many people are flat out CIA people in media. It may surprise them. One of the most recent replacements for Rush Limbaugh is a CIA guy. So one of them, the other one is Clay Travis. So draw your own inferences. But but that's a good show to watch too. But so that's what Tucker, and then someone blew the whistle to Tucker, and Tucker made a FOIA request, which interestingly enough, the NSA was glad to share with BuzzFeed very quickly, record speed. They got back to BuzzFeed on BuzzFeed simply requested. Tell us what Tucker requested.
So someone, I forget who, FOIA'd Tucker Carlson's FOIA. So Tucker Carlson FOIAs whoever, NSA. That goes through the motions. Someone FOIA's Tucker Carlson's FOIA to see what Tucker Carlson FOIA'd for, and they get it virtually immediately.
Well, Tucker still hasn't got a response yet from his FOIA request.
And I don't know.
It's interesting. What was put on there is they did disclose, the NSA, that they're waiting on general counsel's response. Kind of interesting thing to wait on. if you weren't spying on him and unmasking him, and you weren't disclosing his communications to third parties.
I don't know who it was that I shared today from the Intercept or Damage Control. Like, I don't know who these entities are, but they're mainstream media, and they were basically saying, what did they say? Oh yes, it was revealed that Tucker Carlson might not have been specifically targeted, but he was intercepted in the NSA surveillance. Which it's not a good thing that the NSA does this. This is what mainstream media journalists say. It's not a good thing that the NSA catches American citizens in their surveillance. It might not be a good thing. It might be the design of the surveillance in the first place. Catch everybody. Get everybody under the umbrella. You're not targeting anybody. You're just getting everybody.
And for people that don't recall, this all the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, which is where FISA comes from, were passed as a response to the Church Committee's Select Committee on Intelligence in the mid-1970s that exposed all the CIA and other corruption and NSA corruption, because the first famous politician to ever be exposed as being unlawfully having his communications intercepted by the NSA was Senator Frank Church himself. That's why he had the motivation he had. And the point of the law was to stop precisely this from happening, which is what they were doing, is saying, well, we're only monitoring communications with people who live overseas. And incidentally, we pick up on Americans communicating with them. And they said, no more of that loophole. If you're going to be doing any of that kind of interception, you need to go through the FISA court and have a FISA warrant and have a protocol. Now, unfortunately, that has been, toothless remedy. But none of this is supposed to be happening. They're not supposed to be unmasking Tucker Carlson, period, ever, anywhere, anyhow. And they're never supposed to be leaking it anywhere, anyhow. And in my view, they have no right to be intercepting the communication from the first place.
All right. Now, multiple people have asked, what are you drinking and what are you not smoking tonight? Because you're not allowed smoking on YouTube, people.
Exactly. This is a 40-year special edition of a combination of 40-year Hardy cognacs. And this is a special edition. I think it's Quai d'Orsay. You know how to say it better than me.
Oh, Quai d'Orsay. Yeah, the from France.
Yes. And so that's the brand of cigar where they're actually having some protests this week in that little island off the coast.
All right. And in here is my brother-in-law's gin called La Chaufferie, which means really the boiler room. Yeah, it's amazing. It's made in the boiler room of the Imperial Tobacco in Granby. And I have no financial interest in this company yet. I wouldn't mind. But the problem is the micro distilling market for gin in Quebec has been absolutely saturated, or oversaturated, I should say. It's like the government gives permits and then they decide to just penalize the entire market by giving everyone a permit. And so now micro distillery in Quebec means nothing because there's too many to even sample. What happens next with Tucker? So he's got the FOIA request. Someone FOIA'd his FOIA. But the bottom line is Tucker was effectively correct. And now from Stephen Colbert to whoever's not going to correct or retract their initial denials, Stephen Colbert's argument is now, don't do stupid things. Don't try to interview the president of Russia and you won't get spied on by the NSA. Where does it go to? Where does it go from here?
It's him developing more information and seeing whether there's a civil remedy, because there can be in certain circumstances a civil remedy for certain kinds of FISA violations. So, but mostly what he's done well is he's understood this is a case for the court of public opinion, that he was going to out them for doing this to try to remove their attempts at any kind of future blackmail or extortion or anything else, and was going to go right at them for what they did. And so, credit to him, kudos to him for, rather than backing down, standing up, because most journalists in his position run away. People like him and Cheryl Atkinson are the ones that have been willing to push back and stand up.
I can't imagine what it's like to live under that type of pressure and stress. I mean, I say that in Canada, we're living under our own pressures and stresses, and mine might, take a notch up when the election season comes around. But no, dude, you may not like Tucker Carlson, but to do what he's doing in today's day and age with today's government surveillance programs, as we now see them, it takes some type of character, which some people don't like, but that's what it is.